up, my YouTube family? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, then it's just welcome to my channel, and now welcome back. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button because you will not be disappointed unless, of course, your taste level is lacking. And like I said before, I can't help you with that. I don't have the remedy because I don't have the problem. This is a part 2 video. Before I get started, if you have not seen part 1, you will be confused because we picking up in the dead center of a trial day. Video 1 is in the description box below. Everybody else who was in video 1, y'all let me wrap up without doing the lip, girl. Y'all let me run my mouth into the ground. Didn't say, hey girl, you ended the video, you forgot to put on your lip. You're not gonna do your lip. And this is what I be talking about with y'all, but I'm not gonna fuss today because I'm just not even in the mood. I'm just gonna start where I left off, where we left off. And that was halfway through Leroy Fowler III's testimony. Now, the top of day 2, before the witness is brought in, before the jury is brought in, it starts with both sides, the prosecution and the defense, having a conversation with the judge because the defense, Judy's team, they want to admit into evidence text messages between her and Leroy between November 1st and November 14th. Mind you, he died November 13th. So the prosecution is pushing back. The defense wants these texts admitted because they say that the text messages show that they were in this great space, that they were not fighting, there was no toxicity. Things were great between them. They exchanged very loving text messages.
From November 1st until the phone is taken from her in her interview, which I think was November 14th, there are text messages throughout that show a very loving and positive relationship in November, which cuts against the grain of the Commonwealth's motive that she would want to kill him. There's the conversations about going to Florida, moving, packing, and then on the night of November 11th, they text each other all night. The texts are very kind of sexually graphic, but the gist of it is Leroy's in the back room sending sexual messages to Judy, who is responding kind of all night long about how those are good messages and good ideas that he's having.
Well, I think I've got the gist. I'll want copies of the text so I can review them over the weekend.
Now, for 2 reasons, the prosecution does not want the text admitted into evidence. They feel like they are, 1, irrelevant, and 2, they are hearsay. They feel like text messages, especially some sent after he was already passed, like that's not evidence that their relationship was happy at all. The judge tells them that he is going to review the text messages himself and he'll decide whether or not they're relevant and can be admitted and shown to the jury. Her lawyer also decides to take this time to say to the court that he feels like his client was unfairly zeroed in on as a suspect, that they had one conversation with the family and at that point they made up in their mind that yes, she did this. There wasn't no proper investigation done. His client has experienced bias from the police station. He says his client was always cooperative, that she willingly gave her interview, that she willingly gave the passcode to her phone, and that they just never had an open mind with Judy to begin with, which has bred this bias against her that everybody has had even up to the grand jury who decided that she could be indicted. So that's what he has for the court. That's what he wanted to get off his chest. As far as the prosecution, they just informed the court that Leroy's doctor has been subpoenaed and that his son's testimony today will center Leroy's recent trips to the doctor and his recent concerns about his health. And with that, Leroy III's testimony resumes. And now it is time for her team, the defense, to ask their questions. And they come in hot and heavy questioning his statement that his relationship with his father was good. You said your relationship was good with your father, but there was a time in 2020 where y'all were not even on speaking terms. You had put in a protection of order against your own father that went on through 2021. And they have him clarify that his reasoning for the protection order was because he was fearful of physical violence from his father. The son clarifies that while everybody thinks that he just cut Julie off at the point that he ran off with Judy, that was not the case. His mother was sick with cancer and Leroy did leave the family, but he and Julie still had a relationship. He was still seeing her as well up until she passed away. They asked him if there was any hostility against Judy because Leroy had left their family unit for her. Julie was not his biological mother, but she was like a mother to him.
I'd like to ask you a few questions here about your relationship with your father. You had indicated you believed that when Mr. Camilio asked you about that it was reasonably good, correct?
Yeah.
But there were times when, as in any relationship, that wouldn't have been as good, correct?
Sure.
And there were a couple times, or at least one particular time in 2020, when the two of you weren't talking, right?
Yes.
And nor were you seeing each other, correct?
Yes.
And how long did that extend for?
Maybe a year or two.
Okay. And that was at your instigation, correct? You had indicated to your father you didn't want to have any contact with him for a period of time, correct?
It's kind of both, I would say, not just one-sided.
And the reason that you get the restraining order was you were concerned about any type of physical assault of you by your father, right?
Sure.
As to Julia Hawkins, you considered her to be your stepmother, correct?
Yes, sir. My mother died when I was a child.
Okay. And therefore you had great affection for her, correct?
Of course.
Your father then left that relationship to begin a relationship with Judy Church, correct?
I wouldn't say he left. It was both, I would say. He was with both of them.
With Ms. Hawkins, and then also having a relationship, to your knowledge, with Judy Church at that time.
Yeah, he was with Julie all the way till she passed away.
And where there would be times when he would be gone for 2 or 3 days, and you believed he was with Miss Church during that period of time?
It was hard to say who I believed he was with. My father was with whoever he at the time.
Okay.
It's hard to say, like, what woman, as much as embarrassing it is, but...
You stayed there for, was it 1 year upstairs and 1 year downstairs?
Yeah, upstairs, but then intermittently downstairs. You know, I would go to friends' houses or etc.
And it's during that time frame then, maybe back to 2017, that you saw the photograph, that was displayed in the photograph of the voodoo doll. It's been marked as exhibit number 7.
When they show him Exhibit 7, which is the voodoo doll, he says that it is only one of many voodoo dolls that Judy had. I'm not sure if all of them were of Barbara or if it was just other people, but she had a few.
Yep.
Just ask you to look at that for a moment yourself. You had said that you were able to identify that, and that was something that you saw in the home at 108 Central Street, right?
Yeah, one of them.
Okay. Back in, and that would have been in the 2017 time frame when you were there?
I don't remember specifically, but there was...
You weren't there in 2020, right?
Well, as long as I wasn't there in 2020, but I still see my father on occasions after, yes.
Well, but you had the restraining order in 2020, right?
Yes.
So you wouldn't have been seeing your father at that location in 2020, right?
I sometimes did, yeah.
And then 2021, this restraining order was still in effect, right?
Yep.
So that's prior to 2020, you would have seen that item.
Prior to 22. I mean, she had multiple. This wasn't the only one. There was multiple different dolls. It wasn't just that one.
And then they get into his father's health. They ask him if he accompanied his dad on any trips to the doctor. He says yes. He describes what they were like and his father's concerns. The defense brings up the fact that initially, when he heard that his father was at the hospital, he assumed that it was an OD because of his father's recreational activities and what he liked to do and how he liked to party. And then they bring up this milkshake joke, which he was familiar with. And they're like, don't you know this to be a family joke that has been going on for years? He says something that was said about a year or two leading up, yes, but it hasn't been this long-standing joke. It literally just came about. They have him confirm that his father does love sweet things. He loved milkshakes. He loves frappes. And they clarify that when we say milkshake, we're talking about, a little coffee drink. And he says that Judy made them quite often for him at home with her little blender. And it feels like the defense is trying to push this narrative that she's been making these drinks from him all this time. She never poisoned him before. At this point, they've been together for a decade.
At some point in time on November 12th, you received a text message from Judy Church, correct?
Yep.
In response to that, you were somewhat upset that you had gotten a message which you thought was late, correct?
Sure, yeah.
And your initial reaction to that, as you had stated when you were interviewed by the police, was you thought your father was in the hospital perhaps for a drug overdose, right?
I mean, yeah.
And in fact, one of the concerns you had was when your father became mad, you have seen him on occasion use excessive amounts of drugs, right?
I would know he's not excessive, but I mean, yeah, you do drugs.
Well, at one point in time, you were interviewed by the police and they recorded that interview, correct?
Yeah.
And did you have a chance to look at that before coming into court here today?
What, the transcripts?
Yes.
I've seen them.
Okay. And if I suggested to you that you had said he's been mad enough where I've seen him use excessive amounts of drugs.
Yeah.
Sometime in November 12th, you were asked to go somewhere and meet with some police officers, right?
Yes, after I called them.
You were with them for approximately 45 minutes, right?
It sounds about right, yeah.
And prior to coming in there, had there been a discussion through Tammy Carbone about Judy making statements relative to milkshakes?
Not discussion. I mean, it was brought up, yeah.
So you knew prior to coming in there that Tammy had said she had had conversations with Judy or swapped emails, and they talked about her making coffee milkshakes for your father, and the family joke was she was poisoning him by giving him protein, right?
Poison him by giving him protein.
Giving him a milkshake.
It wasn't a family joke, but it was said.
Well, that had been said for how many years?
A year or two leading up to it. I wouldn't say years.
Well, didn't your father like his coffee milkshakes?
My father liked anything that was sweet.
Well, the specific question was he really liked his coffee milkshakes, right?
Sure.
And he told you that, right?
Yeah.
And the coffee milkshakes were something that Judy gave to him, correct?
She would, yeah.
Well, and she had been doing that for years, right?
Sure, yeah.
His other favorite drinks were fruit punch Powerade, right?
Yeah.
Which is bright red, right?
Yeah.
And those were his three favorite drinks. The red Powerade, fruit punch Powerade, orange Fanta, and the coffee milkshake, right?
Favorite drink was milk or like chocolate milk, yeah. But they were one of them.
And not just a milkshake, but it had to be a coffee milkshake, correct?
Didn't have to be, no.
So all of you were together in the room at that point in time at Mr. Eaton's house, and you were all expressing your views about...
Well...
Right? Let me finish the question for you. You're all expressing your views about conversations Judy would have with other family members about the coffee milkshakes she made for your father, right?
No, we weren't all together in the room at the same time having that conversation.
You were all at the house, right?
So my house was adjacent to Billy's, and I wasn't in there until I was speaking, and they took us all in one at a time. So we didn't all, like, sit in the living room and talk, no.
But you knew the purpose of being there. You were all together, and you all had conversations before you talked to the police and after you talked to the police, right?
Sure.
It's your aunt, it's your uncle, and it's you. And there's a great worry about your father, and all of you are having conversation, right?
Yeah, but it happened fairly quickly to have, like, sit down. I didn't speak to them a lot prior. I just showed up to talk to the police after I called them.
Well, but you also had your aunt there and you had your uncle there, right?
Sure.
And they were very worried about your father, right?
Yeah, of course.
And you're worried about your father, right?
Yeah.
And your family, so you have conversations, right? About that situation.
I mean, not after I talked to my aunt, yeah. After the police, we were kind of trying to figure out what was going on, yeah, of course.
But you had talked to both of them before you got there about your father as well, right?
Sure.
What about these statements that the coffee milkshakes were poison for him, right?
Yeah, it was brought up.
Well, it was brought up by you, it was brought up by Tammy, and it was,
yeah,
right? And then the police suddenly decided to focus on that, right? Was there a discussion then that ethylene glycol had a particular taste? Did they tell you it was a sweet tasting substance?
Well, I don't know if they told me.
Ethylene glycol?
But I knew about it. I was a mechanic for years, so.
So you knew it was a sweet tasting substance, right?
Sure.
And you knew your father had a particular taste for sweet tasting items, right?
Yeah.
So that statement was on November 12th of 2022. And then in March of 2026, last week, the government talked to you. The prosecutors talked to you, right? Brought you in and talked to you, right?
No, I talked to them on the phone.
Okay. And at that point in time, then, on March 17th, 2026, you told them that You currently then, in March 17, 2026, had remembered a couple of times your father complained about a loss of taste, right?
Sure. Yep.
And you had no time frame, right?
What do you mean I had no time frame?
Well, you didn't tell them, I heard this back in 2017 from him, or I didn't hear it until...
Well, it would have been during COVID, which was 2020, somewhere around there.
Well, it would have been difficult for you to hear it then because you had a restraining order against your father.
To my
and you're
father.
staying away from each other, right?
Still spoke to him, yes.
Well...
He's my father.
And so you believe it could have taken place in 2020 during the period in which you had the restraining order against your father, right?
And not the only memory, no.
Well,
I
that's
said,
the only time you've mentioned, right?
Spoke to my father countless times.
And your statement was, to the best of your memory, complained that he had a loss of taste. He was still drinking coffee milkshakes, right, in 2022, right?
Still drinking
Distinctive
anything.
taste to a coffee milkshake, right?
Sure.
And it had to be coffee milkshake for your father, right?
Have to be coffee, no.
Well, he was being given coffee milkshakes, right?
Sure.
Fanta has a particular type of taste, right?
We can, yeah.
And Powerade, fruit punch, has a distinct taste. That's why it's called fruit punch, right?
Sure.
And those were drinks your father was consuming and enjoying the taste of them, right?
I don't know if
You would see him consume those, right?
At times, yeah. I mean, he had to drink stuff.
If I may have a moment, Judge.
Yes, you may.
Then they get into Leroy's relationship with Barbara, which he says was cordial, and describes it as similar to the relationship that he had with Judy. He was cool with both of his father's women. Her lawyer then accuses him of having conversations with the police before the police talk to Judy to try to shift the narrative. And then they get on the subject of this bittering agent that should be in antifreeze, which they suspect she used to slide him the ethylene glycol. And what's interesting is the son brings up that his dad had COVID before, and ever since he had COVID, his taste buds were not quite right. And so it's possible that if something had a bittering agent, it would have gotten by him. I personally can attest, I feel like ever since I had COVID, girl, my little taste buds ain't been quite right either. I feel like sometimes I just can't even taste it all. But this ain't about me. When he says that, the defense is like, well, why is he still drinking so many sweet things? Why drink the milkshakes? Why drink the juice and be after this sugar if you can't taste? And they're like, if he didn't have taste, then maybe he drank it on accident. He didn't recognize it. He didn't pick up the bittering agent because he can't taste, right?
And again, back on February 12, 2022, when you were seated with the police at Mr. Eaton's house, and you were free to communicate to the police, and they were telling you what their concerns were about how he could have had ethylene glycol, you never mentioned to them anything about your father ever having said he had a loss of taste.
I brought it up.
In 2020, do you want me to show you the transcript and you can show me where that is?
I don't know exactly when I brought it up, but yeah, I've said it.
And if I told you it's not in your transcript, you can point it out to me where it is in your
If
transcript.
it's not in there, it's not in there.
Thank you. I have nothing further, Judge.
And with that, the defense, that is all they have for questioning at that point. The prosecution gets up to ask their questions. They start with what he thought of Judy, if he thought Judy was a good choice. Was he supportive of his relationship with Judy as opposed to Julie? And he says yes, actually. He said that he had a conversation with his dad where he told him that he felt like Judy was the better choice. She was more financially well off. She seemed nice. She seemed to make him happy. And so, yeah, there was a conversation where this was said. And the prosecution then asks, how does he feel now, having told his father that Judy was the better choice?
Mr. Chameleon.
Just a couple of things, sir.
Yeah.
You said that you didn't have any ill will towards Judy before this incident. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay. What was your feelings about your dad, dating Judy or being in a relationship with her?
In the beginning, I thought she was a good choice.
Why was she a good choice?
She was nice. She had a good job, had a house. She was pleasant.
All right. Did Barbara Randall have sort of some of those things going for her that Judy, you just mentioned about Judy?
No.
And did you ever talk to your dad about, his relationship with the two of them and sort of choosing one or the other?
Sure.
And who did who did you push for?
told him that Judy was the better choice.
Why?
Because she seemed better off in life, like
More money?
money, house. I mean, they seemed happy.
And after after your dad became sick, after you learned that he had this antifreeze in his body, how did you sort of feel about having told your dad that Judy was the better choice?
It's something that I feel terrible about now.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Mr. Fowler, you may step down.
Thank you, sir.
And this is the ending of the son's testimony. Now, the next witness that they bring in is Sergeant Thomas from the Massachusetts State Police. He speaks about how they were able to get a full download of Judy's cell phone information because she gave them her passcode, and how they had Leroy's phone, but because they did not have the lock code, they were not able to get a full download. He explains about how that works, how you can only get a partial if you don't have the code. And then they play the video that he had come across in Judy's phone of some of Leroy's final moments when he's like on the floor, she's sitting on the bed asking me these questions. And there are a total of 13 videos in her phone that she had taken over the course of about 30 minutes, the last video being taken at 7:29 a.m., where you can hear her asking, should I call the police? And he says yes.
Yes, there were 13 videos in total.
With the court's permission, play the videos.
Yes, you may.
Maybe you should puke and get whatever you took out of your system. You having fun? That's the way to the bathroom. He hasn't gotten far. Maybe 6 feet. I tried to help him and he pushed me right into the door jamb, so he's not taking me out with him. Why are you pulling that closer to you? You hit your head on it 5 or 6. Nice. Nice. Is that helpful? All right, there goes the head. That's 7 times. Boy, I'm hoping you're really enjoying those pills, honey. This has been going on for over an hour. Those shoe baskets aren't going to help you get up. Okay, well, you made it almost to the bathroom and you fell backwards and you gotta start all over again. This is fun. Tore the fucking bedroom apart. Oh yeah, happy birthday, Leroy. Spit in a bag, will you? Hey. Tell me what.
I gotta call an ambulance.
Yeah? Okay, what did you take? They're going to ask me. They're going to ask me, what did you take? Do you understand? If I call the ambulance, they're going to ask what you took. Throw it out. Just get it out of your system. Can you breathe? Are you breathing? Hey. Am I calling the ambulance?
Yeah.
All right.
For a moment, Mr. Camellia, the record will reflect that all 13 videos were played in sequence without any questions being put to the witness while they were played. Go ahead, Mr. Camellia. Thank you.
Like, it is so sick to even just want to, like, why would you want to have these videos in your phone? That is just sick. I won't have y'all sit through it all because it is very sickening. It's very sick. Most of the footage actually looks like that. Like, that's the gist of it. Like, look at her legs crossed. It literally made me nauseous. 7:59 a.m. is when the last video was taken, and then the call went into 911 at 8:04 a.m. With this witness, they just confirmed that these videos were extracted from Judy's phone and were real videos. The next witness they get into is witness 9. He is Detective Brian Verney. He's one of 2 officers that came out to Judy's house on November 12th, the day after he had been taken to the hospital to interview her. When I said she wasn't at home, but then she pulled up and they talked to her outside. He confirms that at this point, he had already spoken to the family. He had already spoken to the doctor at the hospital and knew that there were concerns about ethylene glycol poisoning. They play his body cam footage in court where you can see her walking up. She puts some things down. That's when she asks him if her son can come out. They say they prefer that he stay inside. But child, as you can see, he comes out anyway.
Judge, with the court's permission, we're going to start the video.
You may.
Would you let my son come out with me?
We would prefer us to talk to you.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know, take police, call for police. This is getting better and better.
Is this comfortable for you to talk with her? Okay. I'll let you go. Just because Leroy's in critical condition, we want to just follow up and just kind of find out what happened.
She tells them that she doesn't know what's going on. Her man went to the hospital. She was coming to the hospital to see him. She said that they denied her visitation, and all they would say was that he was okay. No more details. Won't let her in. Since she went home the day before, she has not been able to get an update. And when they asked, had he ever shown any of these signs before, she says in 2019, he did go off on a bender. He left for a while, he came back very sick and speaking gibberish. It was kind of like this, but not to this extent.
We had spoken to the doctor. We know that your boyfriend is in critical condition. There's a possibility. Just he's not in good condition. You're at the hospital today. So we're trying to just get ahead of everything and just get all our ducks in a row. So I just kind of want to know. I have to go through a walkthrough of what happened yesterday. That's pretty much it.
So around 9 o'clock, we were watching TV in the bedroom. And I put on, push next to the Hallmark business. Okay. And he went out in the back room, which he does often. You know, I checked on him every once in a while. We had done a lot of work that day. You know, we were trying to get back to Florida. Are you telling me he's dying?
No, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying.
Nobody.
But I'm saying.
We're trying to figure out how did he get there?
When you said that
Were there drugs involved?
Like the doctor just said he's in critical condition, right? So obviously that's just something where when we hear critical as state police, unfortunately, just.
I mean, I heard last night they were going to do dialysis.
Yes. Yep, they're going to do that. Yes.
No, they are going to do that because all his numbers were coming down.
So that's why we just in these situations, the police departments reach out to us. We come out, and obviously, I've had plenty of times like. Just last week, I was at a shooting in Lawrence. The guy gets shot.
I don't care about anybody else. All right.
I'm just saying we preemptively will do things, and then people. It doesn't result in death, though. Like this, unfortunately, this is just my line of work, and it's very uncomfortable. I understand that.
I know more about him than anybody else.
Yes.
So anyways, he goes out in the back room and he watches his true crime stories, and I'm watching my Hallmark, and every once in a while I hear him get a soda. He pokes his head in, and or I get out, or the dog's out. Anyway, so there was a few times that, we had kind of talked and everything seemed fine. He was doing what he does out in the back room.
When you say back room,
It's
up here?
at the stairway.
Okay, that's like his hangout.
Yeah.
So like he was like coherent, performing, like nothing that was out of it.
Right.
So from 9 to 4.
Yeah. He's in the back room. 6:30. He comes into the bedroom. He falls asleep out in the back room. And I comes in. We had some relations between the two of us, I'm not going to say it on camera.
Yeah.
And everything was fine.
That was like 6 a.m.
Yeah. And then, but he told me, he says, I fell like 3 times, I can't walk. And he said, he had to go back. And I said, let me help you. Well, he was legless.
And was that also around 6 a.m.?
No, it's now 7.
Now 7.
Seven.
Like this. All right.
And, anyways, I was trying to get him back into the bed. He did. He got back into the bed. He's exactly the way back. And he's it's not, he didn't hurt me or anything, but he's combative. He had something in his head and he had to do it. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, let me help you. Boom, he falls, our bed's like this high off the ground. Boom, fell right out, took all the covers with him. I get up, and I'm hoping he's just going to stay down for the count. I put a pillow under his head, I put a blanket over him. Nope, he's going to stay down. I bounced around the room, and I was like, do I need to call the ambulance? And that was maybe 7:30. I don't remember the time frame.
Yeah.
But I tried to get him to say my name, talk to me. Can you hear what I'm saying? And he really had no words, but he did say call the ambulance.
Yeah, he didn't feel, yeah. And then were you the one that called?
Yeah.
Okay. So, you're the son, right? Yeah. Son. When he woke up from 4 a.m. to then, I don't know anything about him. Does he abuse alcohol? Does he use narcotics?
Nope.
Does he, any unhealthy activities, to be vague? Like he doesn't drink, he doesn't use drugs.
I have known him to do some recreational drugs.
Okay, and that's what type? Part of what we're trying to figure out. Yeah, figure out what happened.
Coke.
Okay. Did he do cocaine or Percocet that morning?
I have no idea.
Okay, because when he was up at 4, but then you were kind of up around 4. You didn't see him, at least to your knowledge, do cocaine or take Percocet. No. Did he eat breakfast? Did he drink anything? He didn't have any alcohol?
It was too early.
Too early.
He was out of it.
Okay, so he didn't eat anything, didn't drink anything?
No,
okay.
he really didn't.
Okay, because I heard that you thought he might have ingested something. So that's
because this guy had seen this before.
Yeah.
Like right when COVID had happened, it was like 48 hours of hell for me.
Oh, wow.
Because, like I said, he was out, and he had left before, and then came back, and he's got his, little secrets. And
what do you mean by secrets? We're not here to make any judgments. I'm sorry, I'm not.
I know.
I'm not trying to interject. It's just part of the job. We need to know everything. I'm not trying to interject into your personal life. I know your son's here.
You can buy anything on the street, anything. People sell it all, and he knows it. So
got it.
That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, I know what you mean. What he was displaying the other day, like his physical, what he was displaying,
was similar to. Like I said, those hours, days actually, but he had no words, but a lot of gibberish.
A lot
back
of
in
them.
2008.
He'll run off and do stuff. There's nothing that goes on second.
He does,
He'll
you know, he leaves for days.
yeah, he'll leave for days.
Yeah, he's not always here. Let's put it that way.
Like
He's not always here.
He likes to party.
Like going on like a bender type situation.
Yeah,
You know,
he's
where
got
should he
he's
go?
got another, you know. He loves me.
Then she becomes emotional, bro. At least that's what she's trying to give. And I just noticed that the son didn't try to console her at all. Like, you ain't pat your mama on the back or nothing. But then again, I didn't see a tear either, so, child. But if my mama acting like she crying, child, and she in front of the police, I'm at least pat her little back. I'm riding with it. I'm sorry.
I have people in my life like that. I know what you mean, with people that you care about who go off on benders, and it's almost like two different personalities. It depends. You don't know who you're going to get some days. That's at least my personal experience with people I know and care about. But it happens a lot more than you think.
So, you know, he works hard, plays hard.
Now, while she is upset and she's crying, she's like, you know, he hates himself for what he does to me. He gets sad about it and he does these drugs to cope, basically. And then the son tells them that, yeah, like the day before, he was just fine. I saw him. I spoke to him out here. He was out back working in this little shed that they have underneath the house.
All right, so then basically just make sure I have it right. He was good the night before, woke up at 4, his friend...
And they had a conversation. We had a conversation at 4:30.
I can attest to that too because I spoke to him when I get home like 7ish
Yeah.
from work.
Yeah.
And then
He was telling me, hey, you know, I just banged around a bunch of stuff in the back, and you know, I cleaned up the back room. You can go check it out. Put everything aside. Blah blah blah. And I was like, cool, yeah. He's like, this weekend, you know, I'll help you put new fenders on your truck and blah blah blah. And I was like, cool, I'm down. But yeah, after that, I mean,
then you didn't see him until after he went to bed.
no,
The next day.
No.
Okay, and then he woke up, didn't eat breakfast or have
Too early.
coffee or whatever
Too
like
early.
that. Too early, and then
We heard banging around
He doesn't drink
upstairs.
coffee.
And did she say he don't drink coffee?
Around
He doesn't drink
upstairs.
coffee.
People don't be knowing fraps are coffee. If you making it, you know you put the coffee in it, right?
it sounds like there was a period of, how long was that period where he started displaying the symptoms and then he was like, call the ambulance? Like, was that like an hour? Was that like 2 hours?
About an hour.
Like an hour. So it's about an hour of like trying to,
Yeah.
you don't feel good, you're trying to work
Right.
through it, and then
Because
eventually.
I had seen all of this before.
Yeah.
You know, and I kept telling him that rocking chair's not going to help you get up. You know, and let me help you, and just make sure he wasn't hurting himself.
Yeah, well, and speaking of that, like, has he ever in the past had any suicidal tendencies or ideations or suicidal attempts?
No.
No. So he's not. So you don't like. It couldn't have been that he.
No,
Woke up
I
and-
don't think so. He's very in his mind a lot. You know,
Okay.
he's a thinker when he gets, you know.
So he's enjoying life. He's not.
No sort of like depression or anything.
No, it's not depression. It's more of a, you know, he hates the things he does to me, and you know, it makes him sad, and you know, when he just reverts into his head, and I don't call that depression. I call that reflection, really.
Okay.
And
Yeah. Okay.
but you know, he's his own being.
But never has said something like, "You'll be better off without me," or no sort of like.
He's really kind of fond of himself.
Okay.
Okay. And I had one other question.
So after, so when he originally went over to the hospital,
What's that?
when he originally went over to the hospital at Anna Jake's,
Yes.
was he still kind of like in and out?
And you've never seen him like how you saw him yesterday, without the use of like narcotics or drugs. He's never had like a medical episode like this. Yeah. What do you think probably happened then? If or do you not have any idea?
I was assuming, since it was like, you know, very similar, that time in 2019 when he left for a little while.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
How long has he lived here with you? Because I was under the impression he didn't live here.
10 years.
So he's lived here for 10 years with you. So he doesn't just come over and visit.
No.
Oh,
This is his home.
I must have misheard. I thought that, but you're his girlfriend, right?
Who did you hear from?
When I was talking to my lieutenant who called before I came up, so it's kind of like a third party thing. They're like dispatching me.
Right.
They were like, yeah, I guess he was visiting his girlfriend. So I thought he was visiting you, so we didn't live here.
Yeah, I'm not the visitor girlfriend.
No, he was visiting you, because I know this is your house, right? But we're both at your house. Okay. And he's been here for 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of the telephone game when Salisbury calls our duty office.
Oh, you should have heard the telephone game. I heard it.
I know about the Percocets, things like that. So that's why I just come, talk, and then leave.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to cause any more stress on you at all. Obviously, we're going to keep monitoring him and his status in the hospital. I mean, they have great doctors in Boston. So
today they said I opened his proxy. I know everything about that man's man. I got it all. I got the stack of it.
Is there anything in there that would be helpful for us or the doctor? Or?
Yeah.
I am.
Oh, you are?
I am. But they said at the hospital today,
Huh.
Well, how is he doing? Is he awake? Is he this? And she said he's okay. And they think that his sister is the proxy. And I said, no, she's just the next of kin.
Stuff like that. I think you have to fill out official paperwork.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, 'cause I know I'm the proxy for my father. He gave it to me. It's at my house in a folder, and I have it.
Yeah.
So,
I can request his medical.
do you have that paperwork then to get to the hospital? Because that obviously gives you authority as his husband.
My house is just a massive paper.
He suggests that it might have been CO poisoning because that small space where he works out of fixing on the bikes is connected to the garage. And so at that point, the officer is like, well, can we see the space? And they take a little walk back there, take a look around inside of it.
I thought it was CO poison.
You thought it was what?
I thought it was CO poison. But he was downstairs working all day.
Oh, CO.
In the basement.
Okay.
Gas down there.
Well, when did we do that?
Did he say there was did he have headaches or anything?
Yeah.
When did he say he
He's
had?
done this all along, and he's already been to his doctor, and he goes through the same thing, and he says nobody does anything for him.
So that was my take on it.
Is that door
This goes
to you?
Yeah.
That's for yours.
No.
Okay.
Can I see?
I think I let the message.
Yeah, exactly. We want that.
She gets emotional again. She's asking them, do they have any answers for her? They're like, no, girl, we do not. He gives her his business card, tells her if anything else comes to mind or she has any more concerns or questions, she can call him. Now, this same detective spoke to Judy 2 days later at the police station on the 14th. The defense points out that it's quite odd that the police interview with the family took place at a family member's house. Like, why were they setting up a meeting to meet at a residential area, which he says has further bred bias against his client. And the officer says that ideally these kind of interviews do take place in a police station, but the logistics of it, how many people they had to speak to, and the fact that the whole family was already at one family member's house, it made more sense for them to just go travel to the family. It made sense that they would be all together because the family was all together just at the hospital. And after he tells how and why the meeting with the family came about, he is excused as a witness.
Period. You were there at that site probably, an hour?
Between half an hour to an hour. The whole family was pretty much together. When we had spoken with Leroy, the family was all in communication with each other, and obviously they were concerned about Leroy and his health. This is a serious matter for the family.
No reason was concerned, but to get them at one location at one time, that just didn't randomly happen. Somebody had to call them and say, hey, come to this location for this time. I want to talk to you about this, right?
Between us and the family, we all decided that was the best location. So ideally, any interview we would like to happen at the police station. So in coordinating it with I believe we did 4 interviews that night. It made the most sense to meet them there. It was the easiest. The family reached out to us in the morning. Leroy Fowler III reached out to us in the morning, concerned about the condition of his father. And they all wished to speak with us. We wanted to learn as much information as we could.
I don't have any further questions, Judge. Thank you.
Any follow-up on that, Mr. Camilio?
You were asked a couple questions at the beginning of the cross about Miss Church's demeanor during that interview. You remember those questions?
Yes, sir.
When was it that Miss Church got most upset during that interview?
Most upset would be when we referenced the other girlfriend, or she said, I'm not the other girlfriend.
Thank you.
Anything further, Mr. Nokunis?
No other questions, Judge. Thank you very much, Detective. You may step down.
Now, witness number 10 is Angela. She's a physician's assistant who worked in the ER and saw Leroy when he first came in. She describes what he was like coming in, and she said that she could tell by his altered state that he would need a higher level of care that they would be able to provide at the hospital that she worked at, which was Anna Jakes, and he would need to be transferred. She had spoken to Judy at the hospital. She had a conversation with her where Judy told her the same information that we just heard her give. She described Judy as calm and hopeful. Now, she also states that because Judy had mentioned perks, they tested for that and he did not have any perks in his system. None. And because Judy told them that he had been falling all over the place, they ordered a CAT scan, but they didn't find a brain bleed, which I guess they were concerned about that. They also wanted to check the pressure of his brain and also check his cerebral fluid for any type of infection. But he was so uncooperative, like he was moving about so much that they were not able to get the fluid because they would have had to insert a needle into his spine. And when you have somebody that's like delirious, moving about, that's very difficult and dangerous. Now, the blood test she performed on him revealed that he was suffering from metabolic acidosis, way too much acid in the blood, pH is thrown off. It's a very serious condition. It causes your pH, the pH level in your blood, to drop significantly. It can occur due to kidney failure or a toxin ingestion and shows symptoms like rapid breathing, confusion, and fatigue, all of which Leroy is displaying. She testifies that she ended up having to sedate him because of how he was moving around so much. It was just very difficult to get the testing done that she needed to get done, and that within just 2 hours between his blood work being pulled the first time and the second time, the pH level in his blood had dropped so significantly and his symptoms were intensifying so bad that they knew they had to get him out of Anna Jakes and into a hospital that was better equipped. She then goes on to explain how the body tries to save itself, like what's really going on when you are suffering from metabolic acidosis, how uncomfortable and painful that is. And when Judy's lawyer cross-examines her, he tries to highlight how present Judy was, how cooperative she was, how calm and hopeful she seemed that he would make it through. The supportive girlfriend by his side, giving all the helpful information that she can, especially as his medical proxy who has been dealing with all of his things up until that point, who knew his medical history in and out for the past 10 years. He has her confirm that Judy appeared worried and empathetic, which she says that Judy did appear so. He brings up the fact that coke was in his system, not the kind you drink. How much and for how long, we don't know. Now, she does confirm that he had the things in his system, but she also says that the use of that is not consistent with any of the symptoms that he is displaying there at the hospital that day. She said that his heart rate was normal and it wouldn't have been. Now, her lawyer challenges that and says, well, if he had a pacemaker in, why wouldn't it be? Isn't that the function of a pacemaker? And she explains that pacemakers go off with certain triggers, and his pacemaker wasn't triggered. He had a very normal heartbeat. It wasn't in a pacey rhythm. The heart rate was normal as a result of his own little merit. And then her lawyer challenges the nurse on not even being the first nurse to tend to him when he arrived, to even know what his heart rate was when he came in, and that at the point in which she started her shift, he'd already been at the hospital. And she confirms that she doesn't know what time he came in, but yes, it is true at the time that she started her shift, he was already in a bed. And he was with this particular team, hers, for 12 hours before he was then transferred. At that point, the defense has no further questions and they throw the ball back to the prosecution. Shell, when I tell you I'm a fan of this lawyer, I'm finna look him up. And I hope he ain't with the shits, okay? And you know what I mean by with the shits. You know what we dealing with today. I'm finna look him up because I'm low-key a fan. I'm a fan pending. He killed this trial.
And is that essentially called the event history?
Yes.
Does it indicate what time he was received from the hospital, by the hospital, or came in, I guess?
Yes.
And what time was that?
8:54 a.m.
Does it document what time he was put into a room within the emergency room once he was received?
Yes.
And what time was that?
8:56.
And at some point thereafter, was he registered?
Yes.
What does that mean?
The people in registration get his information. In his case, I'm assuming they got his driver's license because he wasn't answering questions, but to get them registered in the computer.
And what time was that?
8:59.
So from the time he was received, he was registered within 5 minutes. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And then what happened next?
He was triaged, which is
Perfect. Yep, you read my mind. Go ahead.
typically by one of the nurses in the emergency room, and that's to get information, do the initial vitals, the initial assessment of the patient.
And what time was that initial triage?
9:01.
And is that when blood would have been initially drawn as well by the triaging
Typically,
nurse?
yes, but not always.
And then it says the next says seen by provider at 9.
Correct.
And would that have been you?
Yes.
So he is received by the hospital at 8:54. All of those things we just discussed happened, and by 9:11, you're seeing him and making the observations that we just discussed.
Yes.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Narkunis, anything further?
I don't have any further questions.
Ms. Shire, thank you very much. You may step down.
Thank you.
Technically, yes, he was already there, but you see how they try to swing that? You get what I'm saying? He laid out that timeline, and it was nothing further from either side. You could hear a rat pissing on cotton in that courtroom. She is excused from the witness stand. The next witness to come in, witness 11, is Sergeant David Strong, who executed the search warrant of her home. The prosecution has him describe the house when he arrived. He describes it as dirty and cluttered and says that they started their search in the kitchen where they found the Powerade bottles, and they found this bottle of de-icer, a fluid that does have ethylene glycol in it. And not only is it in the kitchen, it is also orange in color. Here's the bottle, child, mostly gone. He explains the moment that the Powerade bottle caught his eye and why it stuck out to him. They show where it was, which was in the trash can here because he took a picture of it before he touched it, and explains that the reason is, girl, fruit punch is red and this is orange. And this de-icer is orange. Child, all the evidence just right there in one place.
As you were searching the kitchen, sir, did you notice anything? Did anything catch your attention in particular at that point in time?
Yes. Several empty bottles. I located a bottle of de-icer behind the kitchen island. It was orange.
This item right here, the clear bottle with the orange liquid in it, that is the de-icer that you were referring to?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you continue to look around the kitchen at that point, sir?
Yes.
All right. What did you see next that was relevant to you, sir?
Underneath the kitchen island was an open space for a recycling bin.
Okay. Did you take a look? What was contained inside the recycling bin?
I did.
All right. And was there something particular in the recycling bin that sort of drew your attention as you looked into it?
Yeah, I noticed a fruit punch Powerade bottle, which should have been red, and I noted the bottom of the bottle was an orange liquid.
Your Honor, this is the next exhibit.
Mr. Scully?
No objection, Your Honor. Thank you. Sort of behind what looks like a Mike's Harder Mango, you can see the clear plastic Powerade bottle that you were referring to. Is that right, sir? Where I have my finger pointing?
Yes, it is.
And that's the Powerade bottle?
Yes.
And girl, what are you over here writing down? What are you writing down right now, Miss Thing? He also tells the court that he sees 2 notebooks that belong to Judy, the top of a blender and a trash can. And then he confirms that there were other bottles of Powerade fruit punch in the house that all had the right color of red. At that point, the judge is tired, child, he hungry, and so he decides the court is going to lunch for an hour. And when they return from lunch, it is time for the defense to cross the witness. When I tell you this man stood up here with photos of these trash cans in the kitchen and the bedroom Leroy slept in, showing these photos, asking, is that a clock on the wall? Is that a towel on the floor? Is that a... When I tell you annoyed us all, annoyed us all, girl. The prosecution stands up and they object, saying that he just needs to get to the point. The judge agrees, and so the defense is like, well, you see these cans of Fanta in his bedroom. Why weren't these cans taken? There's a Clorox bottle here. There are cleaners here. Why weren't they taken? And his point is that the investigation was just so they got tunnel vision about what happened, and they just didn't explore any other possibilities. They didn't do any other kind of research. They didn't have to, but that's child. And then the defense wanted to show this sign. It's a little pig hanging in the kitchen that says, "Marry me, Leroy," written on it.
The pig on the wall that says, "Marry me, Leroy," with a question, right?
Yes, in this picture.
If you can go forward.
to attest to this happiness of their relationship. And then they show a photo of this bottle. It looks like Goo Gone maybe, with an orange fluid with the black top. And they're like, this was orange and it's a chemical. Why wasn't it taken? And they just go over tons of things that were not taken, and a trash can outside that was not seized. And the defense accuses them of doing a very poor job searching the house. They also said that it was improper and botched because there are photos of evidence. You know how evidence photos usually have like a little cone and a number? There were evidence photos that do not have the cone. They don't have any kind of mark on them at all. There are pieces of evidence they have no photo of where they originally were, like how the police officer had taken a photo of the trash can with the Powerade bottle before removing it to inspect it. There was this other Powerade bottle that had been set on the stairs. They don't know where it was before they put it on the stairs to take the picture. There were vehicles outside that were not searched at all. Other cups with orange residue that were photographed but not taken into the lab. The prosecution is visibly annoyed by all of these photos.
I am going to object to Mr. Scully describing what can be seen in the photographs going forward for all of them. So I don't want to have to make that objection multiple times, but I am objecting to that.
I will give a little leeway to point out a couple of obvious things if need be, but otherwise we don't. The photos speak for themselves.
At the start of the trial, in his opening statement, the prosecutor had an empty bottle of fruit punch Powerade. Just as a display, he told the jury, he told the whole court, this is not actually a piece of evidence. This is just a representative. Now, while the defense is up there asking about what's in these photos and what wasn't taken and what was, he picks up that same Powerade bottle. He's like, which Powerade bottle is this from the picture? And it's like, dummy, neither one. Because the prosecutor just said this was just a replica. Are you not listening, girl? I don't think so. The prosecutor, he speaks up and lets the judge know this.
Yes, it was like that.
Which one was this? Which Powerade was this one?
I don't recall that one.
Judge, that is the Powerade that I marked for identification during my opening statement.
Oh, that's right. So that was a mock used in the openings.
Oh, that's Exhibit B. I read
it. No, it's not. So it's for our different.
At that point, the defense says they have nothing more, and then the prosecution asks for a meeting in the judge's chambers. This meeting goes on for 6 minutes. We don't know what was said. Immediately after, the jury is excused, so anything beyond here did not take place in the presence of the jury. They don't hear none of this. It's just me and you, girl. The defense then speaks to the text messages from November 1st to 14th that's supposed to show this love and relationship. The prosecution says it is irrelevant and useless, and most of the text messages are just sex. They're very vulgar, they're very freaked out, they're very nasty in nature. And then it goes from those texts to texts that she sent to him after he was already in the hospital and never responded. And then several text messages after his death. They don't see a reason for these text messages to be read in court. When I tell you the prosecutor was irritated, and I feel like rightfully so, he says that there is a text message, though, that does need to be admitted into evidence that the defense is not bringing up.
So those are all post-date hit the 911 call. So there, I don't even know what the purpose was. I don't know. She was writing him messages that obviously he couldn't respond to. There are some text messages that Miss Church sent to other people, and then there is one where she texts a friend where she says, "I want to, I'd like to sting somebody to death. I would like to poison somebody. I've already picked out the person that I want to poison." So that would be the main one, Judge, and none of those were with Mr. Fowler, so I don't see any completeness issues or anything like that.
Okay.
Look at him. He just can't wait to stand up. He just can't wait to stand up and talk. Like, girl, wait your turn. Just wait.
In a nutshell, I would say this is primarily Bowden and bias related issues, police bias that developed against Ms. Church with a rush to judgment in this case. And that what these text messages reveal is that from November 5th in particular through November 11th, they were existing in a period of great harmony. They were planning in their final stages and packing to go to Florida. And they, the night of November 8th in particular, they were texting throughout the night and in a very harmonious way, let's say, an intimate way. and there was no evidence of the anger or the motive at that time to kill. It's the exact opposite in that time frame. And as far as what happened to Leroy, which keeps echoing around quietly in the ether here, is if the Commonwealth's theory holds up, that somehow somebody was able to slip into Leroy Fowler's drink and an unnoticed, untasted substance. It could have been anywhere. It could have been anywhere. And we don't even know that bottle of Powerade that the prosecutor held up the sample of and called it the murder weapon, we don't even know for sure that was what he was drinking or all he was drinking. We know it ended up in his trash. There's some assumptions we can make, but there are some assumptions that could point in other directions that have yet been really fully explored in this case.
The judge at this point is like, you're not trying to introduce a theory that a third party culprit is responsible, are you? Because I can't do that. Like, I'm tired and that's going to be a lie. I'm paraphrasing. He didn't say that little last part that he was tired and it's going to be a lie. But that was the gist of, the vibe.
You're not raising a particular third party culprit defense.
No, I don't think we're going to get there.
I don't either. At least I haven't heard anything to suggest that we would.
Her lawyer says no, but then he also says this.
Yeah, I think what happened to Leroy does remain a bit of a mystery, and that's why I framed this as a reasonable doubt case at the end of the day is, well, something happened to Leroy that's bad. There's a few potential options. The court knows what they are. And I do think that some may emerge as a little more juicy or possible than others, and we'll see what happens.
You may come to some belief or supposition about what might have happened, but it's not our job to explain that to you. The Commonwealth has the burden of proof. They have a theory, and we're going to show you there's real reasonable doubt about that theory. That's the gist of it, correct?
That is right on. Right. Although we do, still want to explore. We have live witnesses and people with motive, people with bias, people that were having. Barbara Randall was in the exact opposite posture of Judy Church in November. Barbara had a falling out with Leroy. The text messages show Leroy breaking up with her. Right. She was irate at him at the same time that Judy was, in this, nice, warm, loving space with him. And, and he had just spent some time with her not long before that. And then there's some text messages out there that a few days before, I think looks like it's October or so, end of October, through the text message, he drank himself into some kind of blackout, ended up in Newburyport, didn't know where he was. He needed Barbara to pick up his motorcycle. He was asking her for help. She wouldn't do it. It's kind of a mess of text messages, but it appears that he had this foray completely somewhere else before sort of coming back to Judy's house and kind of settling in for okay, now I'm going to Florida.
Well, I'm not sure what, if any, of all that the jury will hear. That's what we'll be having these discussions, but you're at least giving me a sense of what's out there, which is all new to me.
We view it as a very complex picture, right? It's a complex picture, and trying to give the jury a fair overview of what people were doing, what they were saying to each other, who had motive, who didn't have motive, who had opportunity, who else had opportunity, and what they may make of that is all under the umbrella of reasonable doubt, not specific third-party culprit.
Mr. Camellia?
Well, it sounds pretty third-party culprit-y to me. But
if the suggestion is Barbara Randall was a woman scored who had a motive to do this, that's very, as you put it, third-party culprit-y. But I don't think we're going to get there based on what
I don't either.
The judge nor the prosecution are trying to hear it, y'all. He then says that he has no objections as of yet to the journal entries being admitted into evidence. But then he clarifies that these journal entries that he doesn't have a problem with being admitted into evidence, he hasn't even read them all because, quote, there are a lot of words.
I don't have a planned objection to the notes. They're long. I'm still looking at a lot of words. A lot of sentences. So we're still looking at those, but I don't have anything planned.
What you mean you ain't read all my... What? The way I would have just swung on here right... Baby, Judy, this lawyer must have been free, girl. Was this lawyer free, Miss Thing? Because it's giving free. This concludes trial day 2 for Judy Church. In the next video, I'll be giving a breakdown of 3. It's 7 days total. We about halfway there, baby. But when I tell you this is a mess, child, come back for the rest of it. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think Judy getting out of this at this point or not. I never saw freedom for Judy, but we still don't even have a verdict at this point that I'm filming this. So I can't, like, you just got to take my opinion, girl, as just that. As just that. But anywho, let me know your thoughts down below. Subscribe to the channel if you have not. Liked the video, share it. As always, I appreciate you so much for spending your time with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Peace. And that was midway through Leroy Fowler Jr. No, he's child. That they were in this great space within they asked Leroy Jr. He not Leroy Jr. Come on, girl. Now, the next witness that was brought in was Sergeant William Thomas. Where I get William from? His name was not William Thomas. It was just Thomas. He speaks about how they were able to get a full download of Judy. Y'all need to turn y'all music down when y'all come down my street, but hey, a jam is a jam. Don't piss me off. Who worked in the ER. She was a It's a very serious condition, consistent with any of the symptoms that when they refer. The prosecution ends up objecting. They got up, okay. Originally were like how the officer